At its core, a tariff is a tax on imported goods, a policy tool that governments use to influence the flow of products across their borders. Tariffs can take many forms, but their main purpose is to make foreign goods more expensive, thereby encouraging consumers and businesses to buy domestically produced alternatives. By raising the cost of imports, tariffs are designed to protect domestic industries from foreign competition, giving local manufacturers a better chance to thrive and maintain jobs. This approach is often seen as a way to strengthen the national economy and promote self-sufficiency. Throughout history, tariffs have played a pivotal role in shaping not just economies, but also the political landscape. The debate between free trade and protectionism has been ongoing for centuries, with each era bringing new arguments and shifting alliances. When tariffs are imposed, importers are required to pay the tax, which often leads to higher prices for everyday goods. These increased costs are frequently passed down the supply chain, ultimately reaching consumers at the checkout counter and affecting household budgets. Supporters of tariffs argue that these measures are essential for defending American jobs, supporting local manufacturing, and ensuring that critical industries remain strong in the face of global competition. On the other hand, critics warn that tariffs can backfire by raising prices for consumers, straining international relationships, and even sparking retaliatory trade wars that hurt the broader economy. Today, this long-standing debate has reached a new level of urgency. A major legal battle is unfolding over whether the president has the authority to impose tariffs without explicit approval from Congress, and the case has now landed before the Supreme Court. At stake are not only the rules that govern international trade, but also fundamental questions about the economy, the separation of powers, and the limits of presidential authority in shaping national policy. The Supreme Court's decision will set a precedent that could influence economic policy and the balance of power between the branches of government for years to come. The outcome of this high-stakes debate won't just affect politicians or corporations, it could have real consequences for every American household and business, shaping the prices we pay and the jobs we depend on. Former President Trump has issued a stark warning, arguing that removing his tariffs would devastate the U.S. economy and put millions of American jobs at risk. He insists that these tariffs are not just a policy choice, but a crucial line of defense for American workers and industries. According to Trump, ending these trade barriers would open the floodgates to cheap imports from overseas, making it nearly impossible for American manufacturers to compete. He claims this would lead to factory closures, mass layoffs, and a significant loss of national wealth, as profits and jobs move abroad. Trump frames tariffs as a shield against what he calls unfair foreign practices, especially from countries accused of manipulating trade rules. This message is particularly powerful in communities that have already suffered from decades of manufacturing decline and job losses. He casts ongoing legal challenges to his policies as direct attacks on American prosperity, turning the debate over tariffs into a high-stakes fight for the nation's economic survival and future security. For many Americans, especially those in small towns and industrial regions, this message resonates deeply. They see tariffs as a way to protect their livelihoods and communities, even if it means paying higher prices for some goods. Trump's rhetoric simplifies complex global trade issues into a clear, emotional narrative, one that pits hardworking Americans against foreign competitors and political elites who, he claims, don't have their best interests at heart. He's also sending a pointed message to the Supreme Court, emphasizing that their upcoming decision will not only determine the fate of his tariffs, but could also shape the broader direction of America's economic future for years to come. As the court prepares to rule, Trump's warnings and the sense of urgency he creates loom large over the proceedings, fueling debate and drawing national attention. The stakes are clear. This is about more than just policy or politics. It's about the nation's direction, its economic security, and the future prosperity of generations to come. The Trump administration faced major defeats in lower federal courts over its controversial tariff policy. Businesses argued the president overstepped his authority, claiming only Congress can levy taxes and regulate commerce. Judges found the administration's legal justification lacking, ruling the president cannot bypass Congress to impose tariffs unilaterally. The Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit struck down most of Trump's claimed authority, saying the laws cited weren't a blank check for executive action. These rulings reaffirm the separation of powers. The power to tax imports belongs to Congress, not the president. The courts weren't judging the wisdom of tariffs, but who has the right to impose them under the Constitution. This set the stage for a high-stakes Supreme Court appeal, with significant implications. After losing in the lower courts, Trump's team turned to the Supreme Court to save the tariff policy. The administration argues the president has broad authority to act in national emergencies, including imposing tariffs. They claim global economic threats justify decisive executive action. With a conservative-leaning court, including 3 Trump appointees, the administration hopes for a favorable ruling. The appeal is about more than tariffs. It's a fight over presidential power and Trump's policy legacy. A Supreme Court victory could expand executive authority for future presidents. A loss would check presidential power and reshape the limits of executive action. The stakes are ultimate. The court's decision will define the boundaries of presidential power in trade. The legal battle centers on whether the president can use emergency powers to impose tariffs without Congress. The administration relies on the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEPA, arguing global trade threats justify unilateral action. Critics say IEPA doesn't grant the president the power to set tariffs. That's Congress's job under the Constitution. Allowing such power would blur the line between executive and legislative authority. The Supreme Court's conservative majority has recently invoked the major questions doctrine, requiring clear congressional approval for major policies. The case tests whether the court will apply this standard to Trump's tariffs. The outcome will shape the balance of power between the branches of government. This is about more than tariffs. It's a landmark test of American governance. Even if the Supreme Court blocks Trump's use of emergency powers, other laws could still let presidents impose tariffs. Statutes like Section 338 of the Tariff Act of 1930 and Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act of 1962 offer alternative routes. These laws allow tariffs for reasons like national security or discrimination against U.S. commerce. The Trade Act of 1974 provides more options, including temporary surcharges and actions against unfair foreign practices. Some of these statutes are untested and could spark new legal battles. The U.S. International Trade Commission's limited capacity could complicate some actions. A Supreme Court ruling on one law won't end the debate. It may just shift the legal fight elsewhere. The president's toolkit for trade policy remains complex and powerful. The Supreme Court's decision on Trump's tariffs stands as a pivotal moment in American legal and economic history. The justices' ruling will not only determine the fate of these tariffs, but also set a precedent for how future presidents can wield their power over trade and the economy. If the court upholds the tariffs, Americans could see higher prices on everyday goods, from groceries to electronics. Businesses, especially those that rely on imported materials, may face ongoing uncertainty as they try to plan for the future. Small business owners and families alike will feel the effects in their wallets. On the other hand, if the tariffs are struck down, prices could drop, offering relief to consumers. But this could also mean that American industries, especially manufacturing and agriculture, are exposed to tougher foreign competition. Some factories might struggle to survive, and workers could face layoffs or reduced hours. Beyond the economic impact, the Supreme Court's ruling will define the boundaries of presidential authority in economic matters. It will clarify whether the president can act unilaterally on trade, or if Congress must have a stronger say in these decisions. A decision in favor of Trump would expand executive power, potentially shifting the balance between the White House and Congress for years to come. Future presidents could use this precedent to take bold actions on trade and other economic issues. But if the court rules against him, it would reaffirm Congress's constitutional role in setting trade policy, reinforcing the system of checks and balances that has defined American government since its founding. This verdict will not just resolve a legal dispute, it will shape the future of American democracy, influencing how power is shared and contested at the highest levels of government. For millions of Americans, the outcome will affect what they pay at the store, the jobs they hold, and the very nature of their democracy. It will touch lives in ways both immediate and long-lasting. The impact of this decision will echo through the decades, influencing not just today's economy and politics, but the generations that follow. The shadow of this decision will be long indeed, shaping the course of American life for years to come.